All right, welcome back, everyone. As leaders and managers, I think one of the biggest things we're always wrestling with is how do we really unlock the potential of our teams? Like, how do we get them firing on all cylinders? Not just in theory, but like practical, actionable stuff.
Absolutely, and that's what's got us so excited about this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've been digging into this fascinating presentation by Tony Dovale, who he calls himself a bit of a cage rattler and a button pusher, which I love.
Right. He doesn't mince words.
No, he does not.
Yeah.
And with 35 plus years of experience,
Yeah.
he's been there, he's done that. He's actually invested something like 20 million rand, a hefty sum, into what he calls a revolutionary workplace. So clearly he's walking the walk, right?
Yeah, not just talking about it, actually building it. And he really focuses on the people side of business, which we know is so crucial. I mean, it's all about people at the end of the day, right?
Couldn't agree more. And he's all about not just surviving, but thriving in this crazy changing world we're in. So our goal today is to really distill his wisdom, the practical strategies, the things you can actually use as a leader or manager.
Yeah.
So you can actually implement them and see real results in your team. And of course, that impacts the whole organization, right?
Exactly. So let's jump right in. Dovale kicks off with a really, really gripping story. He takes us back to 1977, a Friday night. He's driving this powerful V8, pushing it almost to 300 kilometers an hour. Like you can almost feel the wind in your hair listening to him describe it.
So vivid, right? You can almost
Yeah.
smell the burning rubber, the adrenaline.
Totally. But then he shifts gears. He talks about his colleague Kevin, ex-racing driver, tons of experience, takes the same car out a few weeks later, and at a much more reasonable 120 kph, completely burns out the engine like, what?
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, right? Right. But that's where Duville's point comes in. It's a masterclass in management, really. It's about understanding that it's not just about raw power or talent, it's about how you manage it, especially with your people.
Yeah.
You can push too hard, even with the best intentions, and end up with, well, a burned out engine.
A burned out team, a burned out organization. And that brings up this idea of, the new VAWA world that Dovale talks about.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He doesn't really spell it out, but it's pretty clear he's talking about this volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, and accelerated world we're all operating in.
Right, exactly. It's a bit of a mouthful, but so true.
And he's saying, we need to make a serious shift in how we think about leadership in this environment. So I want you to think about your team right now. Are you pushing them too hard? Are you risking burnout without even realizing it? That's a question I think we all need to ask ourselves.
Absolutely. And then Dovale throws down the gauntlet with this really provocative question. He asks, what kind of manager are you? Are you a builder or are you a breaker?
Whoa. Yeah, that's going straight to the heart of it.
Right. No sugarcoating. And it really forces you to look in the mirror. Are you creating an environment where people thrive and grow, or are you unintentionally tearing them down?
And then he goes on to talk about this idea of left brain versus right brain approaches to management.
Yeah, the left brain being all about the numbers, the logic, the systems, and the right brain being more focused on people, empathy, creativity.
Right. And his point is you need both. You need that balance for real sustainable success as a leader. So think about your own style. Where do you tend to lean? And what impact might that be having on your team, on their well-being, their ability to perform?
Absolutely. And that naturally leads to this perennial challenge for leaders.
Right. Okay.
Attracting it, retaining it, developing it. It's never ending.
It's a constant struggle, isn't it? And Dovale frames it in a really interesting way. He talks about this dilemma. Do you invest in training and development knowing they might leave and take those skills to a competitor?
Or do you hold back and then you're stuck with, what he calls a B team? It's a tough choice. A classic catch-22.
It is. I mean, nobody wants to spend all that time and money training someone only to see them walk out the door. But then again, if you don't invest in your people, you're not going to stay competitive. It's a real balancing act. And that's where this whole idea of silent resignation comes in, right?
Yeah, and this changing work ethic. Dovale talks about this idea of, more money for the box so you can have another car, another little Deer jet.
It's like we're not just working for the paycheck anymore.
Exactly. People are looking for more meaning, more purpose in their work. They want to feel like they're making a difference.
And it's backed up by the data. Dovale mentions a pretty shocking statistic. Something like 67% of people globally are either actively looking for a new job or open to the idea.
That's huge. And when you think about the cost of losing good employees, the time it takes to recruit, train, get them up to speed, it's a significant hit.
Absolutely. He even tells the story about a woman who walked away from a training opportunity because the boss and the culture were so toxic. I mean, that's powerful.
It's a big reminder that the environment we create as leaders matters, like a lot. Dovale asks two really important questions. What kind of context do you have? And how many of your star performers would it be dangerous to lose?
It's not just about anyone leaving, it's about the impact of losing your best people, the ones who are driving your success.
Right, those key players. And, while we're talking about the internal environment, let's not forget the external pressures. I mean, competition is fierce. AI is changing the game. It can feel overwhelming.
It's constant, isn't it? But Dovale offers this really interesting antidote to all that. He says, the more high tech you have, the more high touch you need.
I love that. It's so true.
It's like a reminder that in this digital world, human connection, empathy, real leadership, those things become even more critical.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance. And speaking of balance, this brings us to what Dovale calls the Dunning-Kruger effect in leadership.
Uh-oh, this is where it gets a little uncomfortable, right?
Maybe a little. But it's important. So for those who don't know, the Dunning-Kruger effect is this cognitive bias, where people who are incompetent at something actually overestimate their abilities. They don't even realize how bad they are.
It's like they're blind to their own blind spots.
Exactly. And Dovale's warning here is that there are a lot of people out there who think they're great leaders, but in reality, they're actually hurting their teams and hindering their performance. It's a sobering thought.
It is. It makes you wonder how many well-intentioned but ineffective leaders are out there, completely unaware of the damage they're doing. And to further drive home this point about adapting and evolving as leaders, Dovale uses this brilliant analogy of the Formula One pit stop.
Oh, I love this one.
He talks about how back in 1955, a pit stop took like 67 seconds. But today, with technology, teamwork, precision, it's lightning fast. The point being, if you're clinging to old ways of doing things, you're going to get left behind.
You're going to be slow, inefficient, and ultimately, you're not going to win the race.
Exactly. And while technology plays a big role, he circles back to this idea of balance. He uses the example of a car's wheels being out of alignment. Even a tiny imbalance at high speeds can lead to a major problem, a breakdown.
Right, and he connects that to the different dimensions of an organization. Relationships, teamwork, trust, leadership, emotional intelligence. He even poses this question to our listeners. How balanced are these elements in your organization? It's a challenge to really assess the health of your, what he calls your 20 million rand machine.
Yeah, to think about the value of your human capital, and this ties in perfectly with the research Dovale cites from Google. Did you see that stat?
Yeah. 9 out of 10 managers are bad. Pretty provocative, right?
Yeah. Definitely makes you sit up and take notice. And Dovale goes on to say that leadership impacts something like 60 to 70% of overall performance and results. That's huge.
It really highlights the importance of good leadership and conversely, the damage that a bad leader can do. He uses this powerful image of a bad leader smashing the machine, even if it's made up of talented people.
Like a wrench in the gears. And you know what that leads to? Burnout. And Dovale's very clear, burnout has no value.
None whatsoever. And he talks about this tendency to overload our high performers, the ones who always deliver.
Yeah, the reliable ones, the workhorses.
But it's a recipe for disaster. You end up burning them out, or worse, they leave. He even shares this really poignant anonymous quote from someone on Reddit who describes having a panic attack and literally not being able to open their laptop.
It's a stark reminder of the very real human cost of burnout. So as leaders, we need to be asking ourselves, what kind of environment are we creating? Do our people feel safe to speak up if they're struggling? Dovale makes this great point. You can't just sell time for money anymore.
It's not enough. People are craving more. And that brings us back to that 67% of people looking to leave their jobs. Dovale says it's because they lack meaning, purpose, passion in their work.
So when your team wakes up in the morning, are they excited to come to work because they feel like they're making a difference, or are they just chasing a paycheck? Dovale is a big believer in this idea of a massive transformative purpose.
Yeah, that's something we can all strive for as leaders. And remember, he says people join organizations because of the vision, the mission, the values, but they leave because of bad leadership and conflict.
So true. So how do we address these issues? How do we create a more engaged, high-performing culture? This is where Dovale introduces his PTLC framework.
The 4 wheels of a high-performance organization: people, teams, leadership, and culture.
And he emphasizes that you need all 4 working together in balance for true success. So let's break it down. First up, people.
It's about having the right people with the right mindset, skills, and in the right roles. Good people build good teams, he says.
Simple but powerful. Then there's teams. Dovale acknowledges the idea of self-managing teams, but he also believes that most teams need strong leaders to guide them, inspire them, provide support.
Yeah, it's not about being completely hands-off. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're empowering people, but also providing the direction they need.
And then there's leadership. Dovale believes that the quality of leadership is reflected in the culture of the organization. Leaders are ultimately responsible for shaping that culture.
And too many people are doing work instead of leading, he says. It's a good reminder for all of us in leadership positions.
It is. And finally, culture. Duvall says a thriving culture should attract people, not repel them. It should be transformative, not toxic.
Absolutely. And he stresses that all four of these elements need equal attention. You can't just focus on one and neglect the others.
It's like a car, right? You need all four wheels working properly for it to run smoothly. And to really emphasize this point about looking deeper, Dovale uses this clever little puzzle. He shows his audience a simple image and asks them to count the squares. Most people see about 17.
But there are actually many more.
Right. It's a great metaphor for how we need to look beyond the surface, see the things that might be hidden or that we're not immediately aware of. So, as a leader, what are you missing? What are your blind spots?
And then Dovale gets really personal. He talks about his own health scare. He was wearing a fitness tracker, and it detected an irregular heartbeat, atrial fibrillation. And that led to a whole cascade of other diagnoses.
It's a reminder that things aren't always what they seem. You know, on the outside, he seemed healthy, but on the inside, something serious was going on. And he connects that to how we treat our people in the workplace.
Yeah, he says, don't treat your people like robots. Encourage them to get checkups, to talk about what's going on, to take care of their well-being.
It's about taking care of the heart of your business, the people who make it all work. And he also touches on this idea of increasing lifespans, which means we need to be thinking about both financial and physical well-being.
It's a long game,
Uh,
right? And he ends with these really powerful questions. How is your heart doing? How is your personal art doing? How's your business heart doing? And do your staff wake up with enthusiasm or dread? Those are questions worth pondering.
Absolutely. So to sum up, Tony Dovale's message is all about taking a conscious, balanced approach to people, teams, leadership, and culture. It's about being a builder, not a breaker.
And creating an environment where people feel valued, supported, and inspired to do their best work. It's about high-touch leadership in a high-tech world.
And finally, it's about remembering that just like your own personal machine needs regular checkups to function at its best, so does your organization. So are you taking care of your most valuable asset, your people? What squares might you be missing? What can you do to create a truly thriving workplace?
That's something for all of us to think about.
Absolutely. Food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Until then.